For years, the Triforce has been a core and sacred relic in the Zelda franchise. Power, courage and wisdom, the three divine forces that followed every hero, villain and kingdom, and yet we haven't seen the Triforce properly used in a game since Skyward Sword in 2011. It does appear in Echoes of Wisdom and Breath of the Wild briefly, but in Breath of the Wild it's never actually mentioned in the slightest, and in Echoes of Wisdom it's referred to as Prime Energy and not the Triforce. They deliberately avoided calling it the Triforce, and that's not a coincidence. Skyward Sword was the last 3D Zelda game to follow a linear format, and also the last 3D Zelda game to make the Triforce a central part of the story. Breath of the Wild then comes along in 2017, ditching the linear format, but also the Triforce. It does make a short appearance at the very end of the game, but still isn't mentioned at all. If we're being honest, Skyward Sword wasn't exactly a wild success, which is why Nintendo let go of the linear format. But what if Nintendo didn't just blame the linear format? What if they've simultaneously left some of the blame on the Triforce itself? Skyward Sword is the first and only game in the series that requires you to collect all three pieces of the Triforce so that you can make the wish to destroy Demise. So it's arguable to say it's the most Triforce-centered game in the series. And yet the very next game, well, it's gone. It's not even mentioned once. The only times it's seen is in the Hylian Crest and the final ceiling seen at the very end of Breath of the Wild. And, well, that's it. This problem wasn't solved by Tears of the Kingdom though. In fact, it was only exacerbated. If we believe what we saw at the end of Breath of the Wild and assume that Zelda possesses the full power of the Triforce, why doesn't she use it? Ever? Going into a spooky chamber. Ooh, I don't like the look of that. Oh no, it's moving. Should we do something? Oh no, Link's arm. Link, you've burnt your arm. I know what to do. I'm not going to do anything. And then, I'm going to walk backwards. Oh, I'm falling. Alright, I've seen this evil guy before. He was deep underground. Now I know he could potentially destroy my world, but I don't want to be mean. I'm not going to use my godly powers on him, so I'll be nice. And I'll use my time pad. Oh no, everyone I liked her is dead. What I'm getting at is why? Why not use the Triforce? It could have fit perfectly into this game. It could have explained its absence in Breath of the Wild. Maybe one of the pieces was used by Ganondorf for thousands of years. Zelda already had her piece and Link originally had his in Breath of the Wild. After his arm was burnt off, Ganondorf tried to steal it, only for it to shatter and spread throughout the land of Hyrule. This all rides on the narrative that Zelda doesn't have the full Triforce though, going against what we saw in Breath of the Wild, but they could have made it make sense. But no, instead we get silence. No mention, no explanation, no more than what we got in Breath of the Wild. They basically just said, we decided we didn't like it anymore, so now it's gone. Really? It was so important and now it's not? The Triforce has been in Zelda since The Legend of Zelda from 1986, and while it doesn't appear in every game since then, it's been 14 years since we last properly saw it in a game. Why Nintendo? Now I've already said that some of the reason might have come as a result of Skyward Sword's failures. I don't think that's all there is to it. Breath of the Wild aimed to recreate the roots of Zelda, but that wasn't all. It also wanted to act as a reinvention of the series, to challenge the conventions of the Zelda games. Ditching the linear dungeon progression was one of those conventions that Breath of the Wild challenged and broke. You could do the dungeons in any order, but it also seems like the Triforce may have been one of the conventions Nintendo tried to break. Aonuma, the main producer of the Zelda series, when asked why Echoes of Wisdom refers to the Triforce as Prime Energy, stated that because the image we've built of the Triforce over the years is so strong, one would automatically imagine the story must have the same structure and flow. So we avoided the word Triforce to allow more freedom in storytelling. Basically what he's saying is having the Triforce directly mentioned in the game would have limited their creative freedom for the story. So removing the Triforce is Nintendo's way of making a creative story. If they can escape the foundations the Triforce comes with, they feel as though they can be more free with their story, which links directly into the ideas they went into the development of Breath of the Wild with. Freedom, not just for the players, but also for the developers and story writers. Looking at it this way, it does begin to make sense. Breath of the Wild wanted to get as far away from the old Zeldas as possible, not because they don't like it, although perhaps they didn't, but because they wanted complete freedom in every aspect imaginable. So that's why it doesn't appear properly in those games. But what about the future of the series? Well, I think we might just be okay. The latest game release did have the Triforce in. It was never referred to as the Triforce, but it was. Aonuma confirms that. I think the fact that it was in the game serves as hope it will return. Nintendo got away from it to pursue freedom, but in Echoes of Wisdom they found a way to do that while also involving the Triforce. This seems like, at least to me, they want to involve the Triforce more in the future games, and Echoes of Wisdom was a way of testing it, much like they tested having a female protagonist in the very same game. One thing that does worry me, however, is that Echoes of Wisdom is not developed by Nintendo completely. It is instead developed by Grezzo, with Nintendo helping and publishing it. Whether it was Grezzo or Nintendo who wrote Echoes of Wisdom's story, or if it was collaborative, I don't know. But it does worry me that it might not have been Nintendo's idea to have the Triforce in the game, and rather Grezzo's. The reason that worries me is that the next 3D Zelda game, developed by Nintendo likely, may not include the Triforce, and we may lose it entirely in the future if Nintendo continues the direction of not including the Triforce and pursuing absolute freedom. Whatever the case, if we assume the Triforce will be in the next game, what role would it play this time? We know it has the ability to grant wishes, empower the user, but what if we had a game where Ganondorf, or someone like him, was able to get their hands on the Triforce? Like in Wind Waker, but without the king stepping in and stopping him. What would that wish be? In Wind Waker, he wanted Hyrule to return so he could rule it, but in the next game, there probably won't be an ocean. Let me know what you guys think, and do you think Nintendo secretly hates the Triforce and wants to get rid of it entirely, or do you think this was just a way of escaping the foundations the Triforce laid down for a while to give the developers the freedom they wanted to fuel the game's development and will return in the next game to being an essential piece of the story?